Hello, welcome to this very special edition of the Pace Report. We're running live at Marcus Garvey Park for this year's 2025 Charlie Parker Jazz Festival. Blessing the band stage tonight and kicking this off in full swing is NEA Jazz Master, bassist, as well as composer Ron Carter. Tonight here, blessing the band stage, is NEA Jazz Master Ron Carter, who's performing with his big band, kicking off the festivities this year's 2025 Charlie Parker Jazz Festival. Tonight you're going to see a band that he very seldom gets to play with, and he's paying homage to the great big bands, including the great Charles Mingus, as well as the great Duke Ellington and Count Basie, just to name the many endless few. I had a chance to sit down to break bread with Mr. Carter to talk about the importance of the big band to jazz music. Also, we'll reflect on some of his big band experiences playing here in New York City. Also, we sit down to talk about his upcoming Rontober Fest, which is his month-long residency at Birdland, which he plays with different ensembles each week for the entire month of October. Also, we sit down and reflect on a very good friend of his, the late Chuck Mangione. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of this year's 2025 Charlie Parker Jazz Festival, featuring NEA Jazz Master, bassist and composer, the maestro Ron Carter, here on the Pace Report, live here at Marcus Garvey Park, here in New York City. Every year the Charlie Parker Jazz Festival kicks off in full swing with the big band. And tonight you are going to play some selections to jazz fans. Tell my viewers what everyone's getting ready to get into.
Well, a lot of the songs you can play are recorded under my name called Ron Carter's Great Big Band. The arranger for most of them is Bob Friedman, who just passed away 2 years ago. One of the things that pleases me about the August 22 concert is that this band doesn't work very often. But the moment I tell these guys that we got a gig, they all are in it. So for the past 5 gigs we've had, it's been the same personnel spread over the gigs for 4 years down with the gigs. You know, and to know that they love the music that much and trust my judgment, it's quite a feeling to be responsible for 16 guys who feel like that about you. You know, so we have a nice concert, got a program set up. I write the program out on the 20th, 21st. Give the music in advance, get the books in order, and make a presentation of a New York big band led by me.
Ron, you know, it's interesting that the big band is a big amalgamation of a music group that we don't get to see a lot of because it's very expensive.
It's unfortunate, but how else can you do it? I mean, they would gladly work for less money, but they play too good. They have earned the right to earn, as near as we can possibly make it, a correct salary for their talent and for performing in this group. So rather than sell us short, so to speak, I'm holding out for get the kind of money that they have actually earned. It's going to come. I can't give in.
That's right. That's right. When you finished Eastman and you decided to come into what we call Planet Rock, New York City, can you recall the very first big band ensemble that you saw, or the first big band ensemble that you played in?
Ernie Wilkins. I made a recording with him in 1960. He's one of the Count Basie kind of writers. First of all, I didn't know him. I just knew the record that he had made music with the band. And when I got the call from Ernie Wilkins, someone had recommended me, who heard me play at some point, maybe with Randy Weston, I'm not sure who. But he was so taken by my presence and my ability to play what he wrote, play the music, really read the music. He said that was quite a thing for a young man to do. In New York, you know, in the 60s, it was a hot time, a lot of unseemly things. They just got past the cabaret card issue, you know, and so there's some kind of turmoil happening. School strikes, the teachers quit striking, they went on strike a couple of times, so there's a whole lot of stuff going on. And it seemed that the musicians who are musicians, who are really trying to play the music and enjoy the starving part of it for a short time, that they found a way to have rehearsal bands and just get a rehearsal space at one of the rehearsal studios downtown in Manhattan, and just get together and just not just play, but say hello to each other. I mean like this, not like this or this, right there. Touch me, that. And it's that kind of feeling that this band has for the gigs we have. We don't get a chance to play together often because those environments have changed. There's no studio big bands anymore. You know, the recording industry that makes jingles is almost all gone completely anywhere. You know, the film industry has left New York. Maybe it's coming back with new music, but music went to Europe because it was cheaper. You know, stuff. So stuff got in the way of bands wanting to thrive in New York because the good players are here, man. Those special players. There's some very special players here, and so I think my band is trying to uphold the tradition as best in my schedule and their schedule allow.
You also played with a very important European big band, the WDR big band.
Yeah.
Tell me what that's like, because a lot of your contemporaries have recorded and done recordings with this big band.
Well, you know, one of the things that makes the WDR band special is when you get in that band, you don't get fired, you don't quit. It's a real job for us. It's the same kind of physical event as joining an orchestra. You know, the people in the orchestra have been in the orchestra 25, 30 years or more so. This band is geared to it. You have vacations, you have paid leave for necessary events, But the library is always good. It's always challenging to bring in big name guys to fill out the band for a special concert. When I was there, I did about 2 or 4 gigs for them when I was there a couple of years ago. I mean, that was that's their plan. They have a band that's on staff. And the same people are hired to do as long as they want to stay there. The bass player just retired to play in the band for 25 years, man. Can you imagine a jazz player being in the same band, not a Broadway show, not a jazz band, full of really 20 quality players. Get hospitalization, get a pension, get paid vacation, you can get a sub if you need to, and you come back, your gig is still waiting for you, times 20 people. That's fantastic. One reason they sound so good is they know each other really well. I mean, you see this guy play second tenor for 15 years, you know what he does. And he knows what you do. So the parts are easy to get played because they sense where everybody's going to help out to do their part. They all read well, they all got good composers, they all are prepared to do the job, wherever the leader is, whatever the kind of music it is, whatever the kind of writing it is. And because they have this built-in job, they aren't worried about the next meal. They aren't worried about dental care. It's part of the package. We need that.
one of my all-time favorite sessions that you did was Aretha Franklin's big band / soul record called Soul 69.
Yeah, man. Joe Wilder's on that record.
Woo!
And Joe, New Orleans, trumpet player. Joe Newman.
Joe Newman.
Oh, man, what a sound he had on that record, man.
Yeah.
And Grady Tate.
Yeah.
Grady Tate was writing the pop. Oh, I think we were so stunned to see her just fit in like Sarah Vaughan would do.
Yeah.
It's a great record, man.
I mean, she really takes Smokey's Tracks of My Tears to a very different level.
Mm.
And here's another tidbit I didn't know. Joe Zawnu plays organ on one of the tracks on that record.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
What's your take with big band with the vocalists? Because that, in the 30s and 40s, that was how the vocalists became truly the soloists in their own right. What happened with that too?
Well, I think the singers today aren't interested in playing with a big band. They want the small group. They want to be more integral part of a smaller ensemble. They don't have a big enough name to be able to afford to have a big band. And their names aren't big enough to be able to hire a big band. But the whole scene is different for singers, you know. Back in the day, all the singers would play good piano. They could they could play in the big band physically. You know, Sarah Vaughan, they could play the piano for the gigs as part of the band. You know, I think one of the reasons that they're not in big bands is they haven't prepared themselves for that size ensemble and responsibility to that many people.
maestro, you are the master of playing with the different ensembles. The month of October, the music world can come and see you for your residency for a whole month. Each week you have a different ensemble.
Yes.
Tell my viewers what they can come and check you out.
Well, I think the first week is a duo with me and Bill Frisell. That's a really high special duo for me, so please, save your pennies and get a reservation, get in there. The second week is my working quartet with James Green, Irene Rosnes, and Peyton Causley. The third week is an experimental trio with Donald Vega piano and Donald Harrison. I call him Harrisburg Address. Donald Harrison, a really interesting saxophone, piano, and bass trio. It's a nice sound and something that they don't usually hear, so it takes them by surprise how you don't miss instruments. You don't listen to the horn, and you don't miss the ensemble of a trio. No guitar player, just me. You know? And we end off by in the end of the Rontober having the big band. That's the same big band, same personnel. They'll be together on August 22. They'll be there the last week of October. That's what I'm talking about. They will make themselves available for this week.
That's special.
Yeah,
that's special.
Yeah, they want to be a part of the warmth that they have when they walk in that door with the band.
We just lost the great Chuck Mangione last week. And I know you graduated from Eastman, and they're native, he and his brother are native of Rochester. Can you tell me about what made Chuck and Gap so special?
Their parents, Frank and Nancy. Frank was a jazz fan. They were special for 2 reasons. They had a delicatessen, and they fed the guys who come in town. All the singles got Sonny Stitt. Dizzy Gillespie was a real fan of theirs. When they would come to this town, those 2 streets come to mind specifically. When they would come to town, they would Chuck would get them over to come by the house, and Frank, but the dad would get there with him, and they'd have these jazz stars in their kitchen area. They would dance and fix dinner or lunch or whatever the meal was for the day for these people. So Chuck and Charlie met these guys personally. They knew their music by way of records and radio at the time, jazz on the radio. Hello, back in the day. So Frank and Nancy's generosity to these strangers whose music both their sons fell in love with, that enabled them to feel comfortable to invite these guys to their homes for meals or conversations, because their kids love those guys. And they're giving their kids the support. I made their first record called Little Giants. You know, Benny Salzano, Gap, maybe Roy McCurdy was playing drums or something like that. It's been a while back. They've been so steeped in the music tradition that I'm not surprised that they became popular, because they were so well-rounded people. And they come from a family who only knows about giving and only knows about support of the music and the people that they know are in this music. Amazing.
I'm a huge fan of Antonio Carlos Jobim. I think he's the Brazilian Cole Porter, he's the Brazilian Ellington, and you happen to play on some records, some very special records. What made Jobim's music so special and unique?
Other than the range of the melody, just the harmony. He involved the harmony with the chords that matched those Brazilian feelings he was feeling with the melody. He wrote some really nice tunes that we never get a chance to hear to, because the ones that are really big tunes they're really big. I mean, really big. And he recorded some really nice songs for his catalog that I only knew him for the first time in the studio playing the music. I said, man, wait a minute, what happened to this song? How come we don't know this song in New York? How come you guys don't play this song? Well, Ron, we got this other called Girlie Beneath. I said, hey man, look, I'm just asking a question. I'm not trying to start nothing, you know. Just the melody and the chords are so bebop oriented as I viewed them. It's perfect for me to try to do something with. I think the audience senses another layer of emotion with these changes that he puts in melody.
Wave is such a beautiful record.
Yeah, nice record.
And are you surprised that it's held up so well over 50 years?
No. The sound is impeccable. The recorded sound is incredible, man. The voice, the guitar, rhythm guitar, the little baritos, percussion, the sound is all there, man. And the bass sounds good and loud. Ta-da! And I'm not surprised that it's still everyone's favorite Brazilian record.
Yeah.
That'll do it again for this very special edition of the Pace Report. Reporting live here at Marcus Garvey Park for the Charlie Parker Jazz Festival. I'd like to personally thank the incomparable Ron Carter for his time. Make sure you support his upcoming Rontober, which is coming for a whole month for his residency at Birdland. For more information, please visit Ron online at roncarterjazz.com as well as birdlandjazz.com to make your reservations. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management at Summer Stage for their warm hospitality, as well as Robin Bell Stevens, the director of Jazzmobile. As always, people, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.
Thank